And listen, time and time again, it's seen everything, the buck stops with the leader. And the most important aspect of leadership in a startup is vision, followed by empathy. You have to have an empathetic leader who can relate to people, who can identify the strengths that individuals have, who can delegate responsibility to individuals, trust in them, and make sure that they deliver. And that's what makes for a successful company.
Hello viewers, welcome back to Breaking Boundaries with Sabeer Bhatia. Today we will delve into the issue of entrepreneurship demystified, something that comes so naturally to Sabeer. And I'll request you, Sabeer, to actually tell us how an idea, a really bright idea, turns into a thinking business. I want you also to throw some light on the various elements of success that go into, making an enterprise of this kind. Then you are so familiar with Silicon Valley. You belong to Silicon Valley. You're an icon of the Silicon Valley. So we would like you to talk about some Silicon Valley success stories like Microsoft, Apple, Google, Tesla, Stripe, and others. Sabeer, let me begin by asking you, what are the elements of success that go into making these companies what they are?
Thank you so much. Well, first of all, you have to have an idea, an idea and a vision for what the future is going to be. For example, if you look at Microsoft, they truly believed that one day every home and every individual would have a personal computer. Bear in mind, that was not the view, the conventional view of the people. Even IBM thought that the personal computer, which was it was actually personal to businesses, that people would use them in offices, not in their homes. But today we see computers are in every home, every laptop, a laptop in every individual's hand. So everything, at least in the high-tech world, begins with an idea or a vision for the future. The next element is, okay, this is how the world is going to look in the future. How can I play a role in it? What can I do? Can I make this idea real? Does it solve a real problem? Then natural questions are, if it solves a real problem and if the problem is big enough, will people pay money for this, whether it is a product or a service or simply an idea? So these are very important. And the last question that an entrepreneur has to ask is, what are the resources required to bring this idea to life? So there are basic elements to trying to figure out if this idea will work. The very first step is to build a prototype, what is known as an MVP, or a minimum viable product. You first build this prototype, you identify a customer. The customer could be an individual, it could be a company, or it could be a government. You take this product to your customer and you ask them to test it out. You don't ask them to pay money initially, you ask them to test it out. Does this work for you? Can I improve it in some way? Will this solve your problem? How big of a problem is it? And then after you have tested your idea with a few customers, then you productize it. Then you build a full team around it. And of course, that requires, big dollars. So you've got to then tap into the venture capital community. And you have to go and ask them to fund your idea and to put millions of dollars behind it, because you believe that one day from these 3 customers, There will be either 3,000 or 300,000 or 3 million or 30 million. It's similar to, for example, the Hotmail idea. We solved a very simple problem, that of having access, ubiquitous access to our personal email accounts, Jack and myself. But once we solved that problem for us, instinctively, we believed that everyone in the world would have that problem. The VCs didn't really believe us, but they said, because you've got good intuition, let's put some money in your company. And that's how we built it from, so you build your company in stages. You don't become successful overnight. It's in baby steps first. And then the second question that you asked are, what are the elements that go into it? Details of the elements. First step is branding and marketing. If you've got an idea or a product, you have to create an aura around it, and that is known as a brand. So, brand doesn't come from buying advertising in the media. Brand comes from servicing customers one customer at a time. As more and more people are satisfied, your brand grows. I mean, look at McDonald's. They have served 100 billion burgers, but they do it one customer at a time, making sure that every customer is satisfied with the product or the service they receive, which in this case is a burger, and for which they've paid money. They go away and they can tell other people, this is a good thing to buy. That's how you really build a brand. In the case of a startup, every startup has to have some sort of a strategy to acquire customers, and that strategy has to be cost effective. I mean, you cannot spend $100 acquiring a customer when the customer is just paying you $10. So if $10 is your revenue, your cost of acquisition should be sub $10, maybe $1 or $2, for example. Then you start figuring out what is the lifetime value of this customer. And that's how you allocate marketing dollars to market your product. That's the first element of a company building. Second element is people building, human resource building. You've got to have a team. You've got to have the right kind of people, because what is a vision in your head, you have to be able to communicate to many people so that everybody signs up to the same vision. Everybody is heading in the same direction. So people in the marketing department know what they're doing. People in the sales department know what they're doing. People in the human resources department know. The company has to be a fun place to work. All these are the micro elements that go into making a successful venture. But at the end of the day, any venture is a collection of people. So everybody has to be able to work together, and especially in a startup, there can be no differences between the founders and the initial team members. People have to truly understand each other, understand each other's strengths, and trust in each other. Once that element of trust comes in a startup, trust me, there is no limit to where it can go.
So this brings me to the question of, quintessential leadership. I think leadership is a very important ingredient of a startup, the startup culture. What do you have to say about leadership? A leader having to get the team together, inspire the team, motivate the team, and carry it on forth. Now, obviously, in the context of startups, a leader has to be a very democratic leader. He cannot be an autocratic leader. So, your comments?
Yeah, no, fantastic question. Listen, time and time again, over and over again, it's seen everything, the buck stops with the leader. And the most important aspect of leadership in a startup is vision, followed by empathy. You have to have an empathetic leader who can relate to people, who can identify the strengths that individuals have, who can delegate responsibility to individuals, trust in them, and make sure that they deliver. and do everything in his power to make, or her power, to make sure that every individual is empowered with the right resources to do their job. And that's what makes for a successful company. But talking about democracy, the word is used more for country leadership. But in I think in a company it translates to empathetic leader who understands the nitty gritty needs of every individual, the strengths of every individual, and gives them everything they need to succeed. That's what makes for a successful company. And like I said, all of Silicon Valley is built on human thought. If you think about it, $40 trillion of value, all on ideas. There is nothing physical, except for obviously, in the case of Apple, there is a physical device. But the cost of manufacturing that device and the value of the manufacturing is insignificant. Everything else goes in the design, in the marketing, in the branding. That is why we call all of these businesses IP businesses. Previously Microsoft used to ship its software in CDs. Today they don't even have CDs. Everything is in the cloud. It's all virtual. You just download everything. Google, there is nothing physical. It's just a search engine. ChatGPT, it's just a box. That is the level of abstraction Silicon Valley is at. And the really exciting thing about the potential of India is India has phenomenal intellectual capital. 1.4 billion smart people. All we need to do is make sure we are able to channel their intellectual resources in the direction of the future, into a world where they can imagine the future and come up with new ideas and take them to successful to creating successful businesses out of.
Little wonder then that you have come out with a platform like Showreel, totally targeted at, not totally, but ideally targeted at the Indian, ecosystem. Would you like to throw some light on how Showreel actually imparts all these values?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking me that question. Showreel is just an attempt to teach people the basics of entrepreneurship as a start, as a course where all these wonderful ideas are shown in the form of videos, in the form of exercises, in the form of right questions that are critical questions that are asked. The idea is to inspire 1 billion people to go and start companies of their own, beginning with good ideas. So before we reach the company stage, it has to be the right idea. So this is an attempt to teach people elements of critical thinking, to help them crystallize their ideas, and then to go and try to build companies out of their great ideas. There is no dearth of problems in a growing economy like the one we have in India. It's only a question of finding smart entrepreneurs to go and identify the right problems and then build upon them and create great companies out of them.
So it's a very unique way in which Showreel imparts education or training to budding entrepreneurs. It's very unique. And how do you think it's different to other methods?
Very good question. We have flipped the learning model in Showreel through the app. Instead of making it a knowledge-based system where people are tested on a body of knowledge, they're asked to study from a textbook and then are asked questions on it, we actually tell them, just watch these few videos, go on your own journey, go and discover for yourself answers, and use all the resources that are available to you, whether it is Google, ChatGPT, YouTube, whatever. Your life experience, your friends, your family, your parents, answer these critical questions. And if you can answer these critical questions, we know you have acquired the wisdom and the knowledge required to being an entrepreneur. We'll test you on this. And once again, we use artificial intelligence to test them. And not just that, we give them 6 units of credit if they successfully complete a course, which they can then use, put on their resume, and go and find a job if they want to. They can use it even to start a company if they want to. But it's a very unique way. It's a unique model, which I think, once again, it's a question of intuition. This is the future of education. So I truly believe that this is the way to impart education to the next generation.
Wonderful, Sabeer. Sabeer, in your journey across these decades, what is the most spectacular example of, entrepreneurship? Something that really is cutting edge. It could be your life, your enterprise, or it could be anyone else. What do you say?
There are so many, I have seen in the last 30 years how all of Silicon Valley has transformed not just the valley, but the whole world with just the power of ideas and human thought. And I will go through the list of all these iconic companies that you listed and give you just a flavor of what was the driving force, the original idea behind them that made them what they are. Let's begin with Microsoft. Microsoft identified, Bill Gates identified a market even before anybody else, and that was of the personal computer market. IBM was building the standards for the personal computer. Microsoft went and said, we will build the operating system for it. And initially, they gave the operating system, unlimited license operating system to IBM, for a one-time fee of like $75,000. But then they were charging $100 per license to all the other companies around, that were building PCs on the IBM standard. These were like Compaq, Acer, Dell, all of the others. That's how Microsoft kind of built its original business. Let's take the example of Google. There were 26 search engines that were trying to do search, already established, well-funded. Google said, none of these will scale because they're all being built with human effort. What Google did is they used an algorithm to rank different websites so that when you did a search, automatically the most relevant one would come up in your search history. Lo and behold, today it's a $2 trillion company. Apple, given up for dead. I started my career at Apple. It was given up for dead. When Steve Jobs came back, he first of all cut down Apple's manufacturing line from 64 different types of pieces of product that they were creating to one, the iMac. And then he discovered to make an emotional connection with people, people love music. He put a small operating system on a device that was known as the iPod so that people could have unfettered access to all of their music via an easy to use operating system. That was the genius of iPod. Then he put a radio on the iPod and made it an iPhone. Then he put your photos on them. And today the iPhone, once again, has resulted in Apple becoming a $3 trillion company. Emotional connections. Don't focus on technology. Focus on people. Focus on creating an emotional connection with them. That is the key to success. Look at ChatGPT just in the last couple of years. ChatGPT began with, just saying, how can we take, the tokenization and these neural networks and apply it to language. They did it to language, and now they created a chat box. You can query the entire internet in a meaningful way. You can have a conversation with a thinking machine, if you will, that uses artificial intelligence to tokenize language and to give you appropriate responses. Mind-blowing. Paradigm shifting. These are the kind of ideas that we will get to see, or our children, the next few generations will get to see. And so we have to embrace it wholeheartedly, if they have to survive, in what is to come in the next few decades.
Great. So it's how, I mean, it's not just a very objective assessment of what people require, but it has to do with empathy, it has to do with an emotional connect, it has to do with feeling the pulse of what people, customers, consumers want. Now, having said that, what about ethics along the way? Do you have something to say about ethics and
Absolutely. Listen, the one thing is, it's about original ideas. What propels our societies forward? It is original ideas. And original ideas are formed during the life of an individual. So ethics are very important. That is why IP protection is super important. Honesty. Be honest to yourself. The first person that you have to convince that your idea is a good one is yourself. You have to dig deep into your subconscious recesses to truly believe that this idea of yours is world changing. If it is a copycat idea, trust me, in the world of intellectual property, it will not succeed. Not only will it not succeed, you know, even second best is not good enough in this world. You have to be the first, and you have to have the original idea, and it has to be a damn good one. Ethics play a very important role in honesty. When you are dealing with friends, make sure they can trust you and you can trust them. Being honest, reporting, whether it's the sales numbers, it is your subscriber numbers, or whatever, all of those lead to questions of ethics. So ethics has to come first, and ethics is directly related to being truthful, being honest, and being empathetic.
so the power of a great idea coupled with the right ethics going into the right direction all make up for success in ventures and enterprise, is what I get to understand from you. And what better than understanding from Sabeer Bhatia himself this the entire gamut of requirements for success, because he himself has had a very successful journey. As you all know, that he's not only the founder of Hotmail, but he actually brought in the email revolution. He is the founder of free email virtually. And to him, we owe this very efficient system of communication that that we work on now. It's called email. Thank you very much, Sabeer, for this very insightful talk on demystifying entrepreneurship. Really nice to have you here talk about this very relevant subject. Viewers, you're most welcome to ask questions, but to ask questions, you'll have to download the Showreel app from Play Store or App Store. Put your questions on that. Sabeer will be delighted to answer. Thank you, viewers. Thank you, Sabeer.
Thank you.